welcome back to the Second Take podcast. We're back, and there's been a lot of things going on between our last podcast, so we're going to start off quickly and go to the Pats with Billy.
Yeah, it's been a while, 6 months, so we are back, and a lot has gone on in the NFL, and not a lot of good stuff for the New England Patriots. Patriots started off the season really, really slow. Here we go, a lot of bad decisions that I've talked about. A lot, and Alejandro's talked about a lot, and on our other platforms. The Pats, safe to say, have been absolutely horrendous, and this is pretty much shown in their last two games, which have been heartbreaking losses that have started out horrible due to bad offensive play calling, bad decisions by individual players, and just overall a bad team effort. So first thing we got to talk about right now is the Patriots lost to the Las Vegas Raiders, which, as we know, was just probably one of the worst endings for a team in NFL history. One of the best on the Raiders side, but one of the worst for the Patriots overall, with Chandler Jones pretty much killing Mac Jones, just running through him. And then Ramondre Stevenson refusing to go down like he was told to, which shouldn't have been a thing in the first place, because that should have just been a kneel down. If the whole entire point of the Patriots running the clock out was to run the clock out, that's what should have happened. And a kneel down is what is supposed to be done there because of what happened with the Patriots. Ramondre decided not to go down, threw it to Jacoby, and Jacoby just went bonkers by himself. So God knows what he was thinking there, but ultimately screwed up. And that set up Ramondre to have his second failure 2 weeks in a row, which has been a shame for him because he's just been all over the place the past 2 weeks. He's had such a good season. One of the best running backs in the league, arguably should have been a Pro Bowler this year. But instead, here we are with him fumbling the game away against Cincinnati with an improbable comeback that should have happened. Patriots should have won that game against one of the best teams in the league. But after doing that comeback from a start that was one of the worst seen all season, we have Ramondre fumbling the ball away. So the Patriots' failures in the past two games can be measured from coaching and individual players.
Yeah, I think it's funny how Patriots' best playmakers have been involved with their ultimate collapses.
Yeah.
In the last 2 weeks, Jacoby obviously been their best receiver, and he made that wayward pass. And then Ramondre, as you said, has been incredible for them this season.
Yeah.
And he's been involved in both plays. Yeah, that fumble was tough. What's happening both weeks is that, they started slowly, and the defense gets solid, and the offense makes the comeback until the end, and then they just can't go over the hump, which has been unfortunate.
I think the most concerning part is it shows that we go in with a game plan.
Yeah.
2 weeks in a row, it doesn't work, and by the time at halftime, we basically scrapped the entire game plan that they were working on in practice all week, and we just go get a little bit more desperate because we're down by so much, try and come back into it, and that's when our offense actually works.
Yeah.
Because for some reason, whatever they're planning out just simply doesn't work.
Yeah. Well, the reason it doesn't work is because Matt Patricia is the one doing the play calls, and he has no right in this goddamn world to touch an offensive playbook or make an offensive playbook, which is what he has done, because this whole entire process, Bill Belichick hasn't changed his offense in his whole entire tenure as coach of the New England Patriots, which has been spanning over 20 years, 6 Super Bowls, great success, hasn't changed the playbook. The playbook that Josh McDaniels ran was the one that gave us so much success. And now all of a sudden, New England's trying to modernize their offense, which is something they should do, with going with more of a Sean McVay-esque type of offense. And when they're trying to overhaul that offense, which they're doing with a second-year quarterback, not the best idea ever for a guy that already learned the offense very well, adapted well, had a 70% completion percentage, which is great as a rookie quarterback. But now we have Patricia. You bring in a guy who had 1 year of offensive experience, not as a coordinator or anything like that, in 2001 on a college football team. So not even in the pros. And, it should be a little bit telling that he had only 1 year on offense and then immediately switched to defense, which he's been doing for his whole entire career up to this point. So when you have a offensive overhaul of there's a million changes for a team that's very young, unproven, and was headed in the right direction, there's no rhyme or reason why you'd put that responsibility in the hands of a man who knows nothing about offensive football.
And then let him bench one of our best playmakers in the process in Kendrick Bourne.
Exactly. And Bourne, that whole entire thing was shown in the second half of that game. As you guys said, the team gets better in the second half because they scrap the initial offensive game plan that Patricia's been working on all week. And I'm sure he works his heart out on it, but his heart kind of sucks because his brain doesn't connect to that. So Patricia overall, he can't manage the team. The team gets better once the ball gets in the play call sheet, gets taken away from Patricia when Belichick comes back in and kind of has to redirect him like a little baby back to the right play calls and to the right players. He benched Kendrick Bourne for basically the whole entire season up to this point.
And then Kendrick Bourne comes in, finally gets his fair share of snaps in the second half of the Bengals game, and has a career day.
Yeah, 6 receptions for 100 yards, touchdown.
Made some incredible catches, too.
Yeah, had one in the back end zone, right corner, which was amazing. And then he had the toe tap on the sideline, which were just incredible plays. And he also had that one into triple coverage that Mac just kind of threw in there. Because Mac has the confidence to throw that to Kendrick Bourne because he knows Kendrick Bourne can make that catch. We saw that catch against the Browns last season in that game where Mac had an amazing game. So you can clearly see when a talented wide receiver is on the field, unlike Nelson Aguilar, who has stones for hands, like just can't catch anything.
You allow Mac to have a little bit more confidence.
Yeah.
And therefore, he
succeeds.
Yeah.
I mean, if we look at the Raiders game, Mac goes 13 for 31, 112 yards. Kendrick Bourne, did he have a single reception that game? No. Did he have a target? Yeah, he had one, but that's because he had a limited snap count. Then we go over to the Bengals game. He has 6 for 100. He's on the field basically every single play, besides for the plays where he had a breather after he ran about 100 yards because he was carrying the offense on his back. So, and Bourne also had one rush for 29 yards on an end around, which was pretty impressive. Nearly almost 1 yard away from our leading rusher that whole entire game in Ramondre Stevenson, who had a pretty bad game after having a great game in Vegas. So Bourne makes a difference, and it's clear and evident that Patricia can't do anything here for the Patriots. And that kind of it shows in the whole entire game completely. And he just really needs to go.
It's just a shame that we let him have a full season instead of realizing how bad it was early on, getting him out and trying to restart and get something new and fresh to try and revitalize what the season a little bit was going on.
Yeah.
And instead just letting the season crumble into a pit of despair.
Yeah. And I mean, Patricia was the worst possible hire they possibly could have had. Bill O'Brien was right there for the taking. I mean, he's only offensive coordinator at Alabama right now. and he didn't even have a great season this past season, not even over yet, I suppose. But this past season for Alabama, O'Brien's been criticized down there, hasn't done a ton of a great job, but he has a great relationship with Belichick, and he did a great job coaching in Houston and getting the most out of quarterbacks like TJ Yates and just horrible Texans quarterbacks before Deshaun Watson came along. So, and he had great success with Tom Brady. He already knows all the New England stuff. So I think Bill O'Brien's the perfect fit for offensive coordinator of the New England Patriots. You could also throw around Adam Gase if you wanted to, who had success in offensive coordinator roles, but didn't really do much as head coach. But again, not hiring him as a head coach, we're hiring him as an offensive coordinator. And there's a million offensive minds in college football that you could take right now that would gladly take an offensive coordinator job from the New England Patriots. And I think that's something that really needs to be looked at. And I think that's the first order of business that you have to do for the New England Patriots in the offseason. You get a new offensive coordinator, and you have to address the tackle spot in free agency. Those are the two, not free agency, in the draft. Those are the two major things you have to do. Because Mac's going to be your quarterback. I don't care what anybody says. This offensive play calling from Patricia has completely just destroyed his development.
Yeah, it's a shame. This is the second year, so we can't even get a good scope on how well he's actually doing, how much he grew, because he's just been hindered so much by this.
Especially after all the hype and everything we saw about how much progress and how much development Mac had made through the work he put in over the offseason. So hopefully, fresh start, new offensive coordinator can really revitalize that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, also very difficult for a quarterback coming in and having 3 offensive coordinators in 3 seasons, having to learn 3 different offenses.
Yeah.
So it'll definitely be a challenge for him, but he's very capable of it.
It would be hard for them to get rid of Mac anyways, but that shouldn't be their concern at all. They should be fine running with Mac another season, especially because the guys like him. He already showed us his rookie year that he's capable of running the NFL offense. So they're definitely going to stick with Mac. I know there's been a lot of controversy, especially this season. People even thought he lost his job at one point, but he's definitely going to keep the job.
Yeah.
And I hope he grows next year under a real offensive coordinator.
Because he's shown a lot of grit, at least I think, and he showed a lot of just frustration with Patricia and play calling. And you can see when different people are making the calls, and when Mac is kind of taking it into his own hands, he's doing much better.
Specifically, that Bengals game, you saw a lot less screenplays.
Mm-hmm.
I think maybe 2.
Yeah.
I saw all game,
yeah,
which might be a record this season.
Yeah. Patricia loves his wide receiver screens, which is really odd, but loves them, and cut back on them in the Bengals game.
We ran a few just plays across the middle to wide receivers like Bourne and Jacoby Myers, and just quick passes, pick up a few yards, stuff like that we lost once we got rid of. I don't even know how long ago it was, but just quick passes out into the middle of the field, out into the flat, stuff like that, rather than either throwing a screen pass or everyone being 30 yards down the field.
Yeah.
Everyone is just so polar towards one way or the other. There's no
there's no happy medium
option, and then you can check down.
Yeah.
Like what we had with Brady, there was always so many different levels that he could look through in his progressions.
Yeah. Because there's a complexity to that offense, and you need complexity in the NFL. And Mac Jones knows how to dissect the defense, and he knows how to run a complex offense. I mean, Josh McDaniels' offense is no joke. That's not an easy offense to run. And Mac mastered that pretty much year 1. Now we have, just Matt Patricia calling plays that have nothing in the middle at all. Nothing in the middle. You can look at a lot of the plays on film and it will be everybody downfield and no one in the middle of the field. In the NFL, your bread and butter is going to be made going through the middle of the field, slants or just crossers or anything like that. It's going to be made in the middle of the field. And that's what's going to have to happen if Mac Jones wants to succeed in the NFL. And that's why they need a new offensive coordinator. Because, I mean, if Patricia's not going to make any good play calls here, then Mac's just never going to succeed. It's not the quarterback's fault at that point, because you got to give him something to work with. And if he's all on his own all the time, that's not on him. That's clearly on the coaching staff. And Bill needs to be held accountable for that. I've been saying for a while now that I think Bill's decision-making and overall powers as coach should be stripped a little bit. And they've done a little bit of that. Matt Groh has taken over a majority of the draft room in the offseason. Not as much as free agency, but a lot of the draft room, and that's shown improvement. The past 2 years have been very, very good in the draft, and that's a lot to do with Matt Groh and then Dave Ziegler the year before that. Groh and Elliott Wolf were still involved in that year, though. And the previous years with Bill there, you had Cyrus Jones, you had Dominique Easley, you had a bunch of just busts, Joanne Williams, just not a lot of good picks in there, N'Keal Harry. We go on and on and on and on and on and on about that. But Bill needs to be held accountable. He can't be running free with GM duties, especially. For me, I just want Bill to coach. I think Bill can coach. In Cleveland, he got fired, but I think he did a decent job there for what he had. In New England, obviously, great job coaching. Even without Brady, I think he's made it a little bit better for what he has, but I think he has a chronic problem at not getting the right talent in the building and utilizing talent right.
It's still, even in the last couple of years where it's been a bit of a downturn, we still have the identity of a Bill Belichick team with an extremely strong defense.
Yep.
And not including this year, an okay offense.
Yeah.
So it's
he can definitely
he's still
coach.
Yeah, he has definitely, especially this year, lacking in the team discipline department though. Definitely
undisciplined offensive
struggle
line
there, especially with the offensive line.
He can definitely still coach. He's keeping the team in games against the Bengals. It's a really good team. Defense. Once again, he did it again with J.C. Jackson, another star.
Yep.
He's left the Patriots and he just fills it seamlessly year to year. He's a really good coach. Players still want to play for him.
Mm-hmm.
He's got Jack Jones still complimenting him online. Players still want to play for him. He coaches a good defense. But definitely his general manager duties need to get questioned because he's been really questionable there. Especially like hiring Matt Patricia. I mean, it really did seem like he was trying to pull something there, like a chestnut checkers game play, and it didn't work out. It really blew up in his face.
I mean, coaching decisions have to be made by someone that's not Bill Belichick, because for his staff, it's just a lot of, it's a lot of nepotism. He's hiring his kids all over the place, which is fine. Like, Steve's good. I'm good with Steve Belichick, but he's hiring too many close friends. Like, Patricia is clearly just a hire because
to go with someone who isn't a familiar face.
Yeah, like in the NFL right now, it's a lot of young guys. A lot of young guys coming out of the Shanahan coaching tree, or McVay, and all those guys that are really familiar with the game, played the game, but are young, have a lot of energy, and they're the ones that are winning games. And at some point, you got to get away from your friends that have went to other teams and failed and bottomed out and trying to transform their careers, and instead maybe go for the young coaching minds that are having the new ideas, that are revolutionizing offense, that are revolutionizing defense, and maybe give them a try every once in a while. Because being stuck in your ways isn't going to, work anymore. the NFL's changing completely. The positions are changing. The football is changing. The way the game is played is changing. And the Patriots got to adapt to that. The offensive changes was admirable. It was a way they were trying to change and modernize, but they hired the completely wrong person to execute that change.
Yeah, the thing is, you can respect like a project, respect the process, but in this case, it wasn't a good process. Like the idea behind it was good, modernizing the offense, going further downfield, but then when they hired a defensive guy to be the guy to run it, the
Yeah.
offensive guy, that's bad process, and you got to look in the mirror and reevaluate.
Yeah, they got a lot to work to do. But with Tua coming out this next week, it looks like with Tua possibly out, what I was trying to say, this could be a big thing for them. So Pats are still in it, but I don't have a ton of confidence they'll be able to do much. I think even with Tua out, they'll probably still lose. So I think right now the Pats are going to have to start looking towards the offseason, trying to fix these holes, but we'll see what happens there. So next up, the Eagles. They lost 40-37 against the Cowboys this past week with Gardner Minshew at quarterback, which was a very impressive loss, I think, for them.
Yeah.
Minshew went 24 for 40, 355 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Miles Sanders was decent on the ground, not too great, but 21 carries for 65 yards. Devontae Smith also had 2 touchdowns to the air. Is having a really good streak here coming into the postseason. Eagles are 13-2 right now. Cowboys 11-4. Eagles will look to lock up the division and hopefully the conference this upcoming week. Hoping to go 14-2. So right now, do we think the Eagles are legit? Do we think they are a team that could win the NFC and ultimately could get to a Super Bowl?
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's definitely a lot of potential in that team, a lot of talent. Very good team. Obviously, the record shows that.
Yep.
But they have a lot of other good teams in the NFC to square off with. So.
Yeah, it's gonna be tough, but they're definitely a legit team. I mean, that's an impressive loss, as Billy said. Like obviously there are no like free points and you know, but it was definitely an impressive game because Minshew wasn't even that great, and they still stayed in the game. They have like a lot of good pieces once again. We see the impact that star receivers have in this league.
Exactly.
The acquisition of AJ Brown has really helped Jalen Hurts reach that next level, and we're at a point where people were questioning him last season, and now he's solidified as their franchise QB. And I think they should definitely have a good shot in the postseason.
I think Jalen Hurts has he's really turned a corner, obviously, for this offense, especially through the air. When he came out for the draft, the big question mark was going to be if he could translate his big passing game that he showed off at Oklahoma to the NFL, and I think he's really succeeded in that, especially, I think the key to that was getting him a number one wide receiver in A.J. Brown. And I think he had a number one wide receiver in Devontae Smith already, but he needed some more weapons than just Devontae Smith. And he's finally found that in A.J. Brown, which has been a tremendous help for him. Miles Sanders is finally unlocking his potential. You got Gainwell behind him as a great receiving back who's very underrated. And in front of them, a pretty good offensive line with Mailata, Jason Kelce, and now Lane Johnson, who's out for the season, which I think could really harm the Eagles, and I think is a reason why I don't have them as my NFC favorite just yet. I put that more as the 49ers. I think the 49ers have been a great team this year. Even with they've gone through 3 quarterbacks now, and I think every single one of them they could win a Super Bowl with right now, just because of how talented they are and having the balls to go out and get Christian McCaffrey, a running back, giving up all those picks and just making a big move, knowing that they have something going here to try to go after a Super Bowl, I think is admirable. I think Shanahan got to the Super Bowl against the Chiefs a couple of years ago with Garoppolo playing all right football, but that team was based around defense like this team, based around the run game like this team, and based around overall good weapons through the receiving game like this team is. So I think this team is set up to go to a Super Bowl. I think the Eagles are too, but I just like the 49ers much, much better, especially with the Eagles dealing with some injuries on their defensive line with Jordan Davis. And overall, I think their linebacking core and coverage isn't the greatest. I love their secondary, though, with Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, James Bradbury, and Darius Slay.
Yeah, it's been really good.
Yeah, and Avonte Maddox, too. But,
yeah, I like how the 49ers are built, too. I think it's really impressive how they can win with almost a passenger quarterback. And I also really do admire their aggressiveness. Like, they recognize problems or chances to improve, and they just take them. They don't hesitate, and then later rule over what ifs and what could have been. Like, they just go out there and get the deal done. Like, they saw Jimmy, and they saw an opportunity to improve on him, and then they gave up all those picks for Trey Lance, and obviously it hasn't worked out. But I think it's about the process. And I like their process, how aggressive they are, and how well constructed they are.
Yeah, and I mean their defense is very, very good. You got Jimmy Ward, you got Nick Bosa, you got Javon Kinlaw in the middle. You just got a really, really well constructed defense, Amber Thomas, over there. And I think that having that good of a defense is what's winning them games. And then on the offensive side, you got CMC, you got Brock Purdy, who's been, as you said, a passenger quarterback for most of the time, but has been good enough, and every single one of their quarterbacks, good enough to get the ball to their playmakers, which I think their offense is probably one of the best and most talented offenses in the league. And when you have that, you don't necessarily need the best quarterback ever because those players are going to get wide open. Ayuk's going to get wide open. Deebo Samuel, who's kind of injured right now, is going to get wide open. George Kittle, wide open, is going to run through people. It's just, and Jennings, a lot of their wide receivers behind Ayuk and Samuel, they just are going to get wide open downfield. Doesn't matter what part of the field they're on, they're going to get wide open. So the 49ers are just one of the best teams in the league, and that's why I think they are going to most likely win the Super Bowl this year. At least I think. And I think besides for the Eagles and the 49ers, really there's not a lot of value in that NFC. You got the Commanders, you got the Giants. Didn't really expect those teams to make the playoffs anyways. They both got quarterback struggles. I don't think they're going to do anything.
I don't think they're really as legit as their records are showing. But, I mean, kudos to them for...
Yeah. I mean, Dable's done a great job with the Giants.
Absolutely. But I just don't think they have what it takes to really make them any type of run in the playoffs.
You can only limp that roster so far, and that's probably a wild card loss. But, I mean, the NFC right now...
I mean, the Cowboys are always there.
Yeah.
All right, welcome back from the break. We're going to get into some NBA now. Just finished up some of the Christmas Day games. Really, really good slate of games. Very entertaining.
Yeah.
And yeah, let's get into the Celtics. They had a bit of a bit of a slide.
Yeah.
And they're now back on the looking like the team that they had been for the first 20-something games. And the offense really lost its touch for a while there. And came back.
Roared back to life.
Everybody but Tatum kind of just took a vacation.
But
after
Christmas Day,
during the Magic game.
Christmas Day, we proved to the league that we're still the team to beat. Because the Bucks were the only team putting up a fight, at least in the East, and we absolutely steamrolled that.
Yeah, I don't want to hear it from Bucks fans that say, "Oh, Middleton was out." Middleton doesn't matter. Okay, some of the playoff games last year when Middleton was out and when Middleton was in, no difference. There was no difference to the team.
Rob was also out, and Rob, especially last year, was essential to the team's defense.
Yeah. Rob Williams is far more valuable than I think Chris Middleton is to the Bucks.
Yeah, maybe not far, but because he's a good player for them. He does a lot of off the dribble stuff for them. But
Yeah.
I mean, I think it wouldn't have been a difference. I mean, the most impressive thing for me was the Celtics dropping 139 with a really good defense this year.
Setting a Celtics record for most points on Christmas Day.
Yeah.
And I think what's also pretty valuable about that is that in this game, they made Giannis look vulnerable, I think.
Or at least more like...
He really didn't have as much of a dominant game as you're used to seeing from him.
He was 9 for 22.
Yeah, anytime you get Giannis shooting under 5,000, 500, it's really good for the defense. So obviously, he's a guy who lives in the paint. He's really dominant.
Taking really good high percentage looks.
Yeah, and
forced him to take a lot of outside shots, a lot of jumpers, and he missed all of them.
The Bucks are a really good team, but I feel like for them, if I'm a Bucks fan, the last team I want to face in the playoffs is the Celtics, and that's not just because the Celtics, statistically have been the best team, but because I think they're the best matchup for the Bucks.
We match up really well
because offensively, the Bucks like to give up the 3-point ball. They like to carry two centers, two bigs.
Yeah.
And then Giannis and Brook, and they always want them to collapse and cover the paint. And they love taking away any shots in the key because that is the most valuable shot in basketball. But then the Celtics are a team that, especially this year, has been shooting lights out from three. They like shooting three. They won't hesitate. And then on the other side, obviously I don't see that many Bucks games, but I don't think I see any other teams as well equipped to deal with Giannis. They have a bunch of bodies they can throw at him. Grant,
Al Horford.
I'm confident.
Jayson, Tatum.
Al Horford has done a phenomenal job guarding Giannis.
Especially Grant too, Rob Williams.
I'm confident that all 5 of the starting lineup can match up against Giannis and do at least a decent job.
Yeah, sometimes I feel like Jalen might lose his focus. Mark is obviously small, but they do a respectable job. Yeah, and that's the thing. They throw so many bodies at him, and then eventually he gets tired and starts shooting those jump shots from mid-range jumping away, and that's always a good sign for the Celtics. And I feel like they're really well matched up against.
Yeah, that's the thing that makes the Celtics team so good and made last year's Celtics team so good. And I think this team obviously is improved with age and experience,
and with the additions of
Malcolm Brogdon. Yeah, but what makes it so good is that you could throw any player 1 to 14 from the Celtics team on the court, and they can make a difference. They can make a defensive difference, and they can defend pretty much all 5 positions. That's what makes the Celtics team so good. And I think, obviously, a very 3-and-D team. We can do anything on the court. Threes, great defense, great in the paint, great on the perimeter, on both sides of the ball. And that's something that is just, they're just a complete team. And that's what makes the Celtics team so special and what I think makes it a team that can really get over the hump and finally win a championship for the first time since 2008. And I think Jayson Tatum taking that step to be a top 5 player in this league, one of the best players in this league, and possibly being an MVP this year is something that's going to get them that far, because you need someone that's your center, your one guy that's going to get you there when the team starts to crack at their strengths.
I think another thing to point out is Marcus Smart's passing ability this year has been absolutely incredible. He's always been a pretty good distributor, but the passes he has been making into the paint and getting other guys just the easiest layups and open looks, it's been extremely impressive and very fun to watch.
Yeah, I think one of the things that people talk about, Marcus is the leader, and oftentimes teams follow their leader and reflect what they do. And something that Marcus has been doing, and the entire team has been doing, is making that extra pass.
Mm-hmm.
They get the ball on the perimeter, they're always looking to the sides, trying to make the next pass to an open 3 before they take their own shot. And that's also improved their numbers, making that extra pass to the corner, skip passes, and that's definitely helped and made them lethal on offense. So next we'll talk about the Warriors, who were struggling, but they did come through with a big win on Christmas against the Grizzlies, who've been talking a lot, especially about the Warriors.
They've also had a few inconsistencies with keeping their main their main players healthy and in the lineup. So it's a little understandable with the struggle that they're experiencing, but especially for a team that's defending a championship, it's a very steep decline in performance from what we saw last season.
Yeah.
But it's super positive when you can beat a team like the Grizzlies that are pretty much all around really, really good. Guys like Brandon Clark, John Morant, Dylan Brooks, Bane, who's a lights out shooter, Jaren Jackson in the paint. When you can beat a team like that without your main guy in Curry on the court and having younger guys like Jordan Poole step up. Poole had a great game.
Yeah, he did.
32 points. Just a ton of scoring from him. And obviously Clay contributing with 24. Just a lot of the smaller guys or guys who have lesser roles, I think, with the Warriors stepped up yesterday, and that's something that they need.
Curry's out for a few more weeks. Though.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the Warriors aren't necessarily one of the deeper teams in the NBA. They rely a lot on Curry, Thompson, that core group, on especially the offensive side of the ball.
Yeah. And you need to win a championship again, if they want to win another championship.
Which they definitely do.
Yeah, obviously.
Yeah, Clay was talking about wanting to be part of the group of 5.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a 1 at 5 times.
They need more depth, and they're getting, clearly from this past game, they're getting a lot out of players that going into the season maybe we thought weren't going to perform as well.
A lot of young pieces.
Yeah, so just the development of their young guys like Moody and Kuminga, Wiseman, getting those guys up to speed, getting them into bigger roles, which they've been trying to do for the past few years, but now obviously desperately needed with guys phasing out and trying to go for that last type of run here with a reloaded squad. It's good to see this past game, see those improvements, and seeing Poole take a big role in the absence of Curry.
Yeah, I think obviously the record still isn't great. They still haven't even been good over the last 10 games. That was a statement win. The Grizzlies were the 1 seed in the West before that game. And now, obviously, the Nuggets and Pelicans are up there. Pelicans' jump this year has been really good.
Pelicans have been very impressive this season.
Yeah.
Pelicans looking at their roster, you would think that they were underperforming last year because they have a lot of talent. But with Zion healthy, it's really been coming through for them, and the talent has shown this year for them. And I hope they keep it up because it's a young team. It's exciting to watch them play.
Yeah, the Pelicans are really stacked with. B.I. I've been a big believer in him from the start, and Zion and McCollum. They have the scoring, they have defense. Of Valanciunas, they got a lot of stuff there to build off of. Do I think the Pelicans are going to be a big contender in the postseason this year? They'd be a little feisty, but
if anyone was going to be a dark horse to make a run, it would be them.
Yeah. I think the key here is keep Zion healthy. That's been the concern for the past few years and hasn't worked out. Now he's finally getting into the rotation, getting just tough minutes the whole entire way, but kind of keeping his head on here. So we'll see how it goes. I expect him to miss some time deep in the season because he's just kind of that player with that big of a body. It's tough for guys to stay on the court, but he just needs to maintain it. And if Zion can maintain it, then the team's going to be dangerous. But he just needs to maintain his health here and see where he can go.
Yeah. Next, going on the NBA, we're talking about the Nuggets, and Jokic has kept it up again. He's really having an MVP season. If anyone's going to take away from Tatum, I think he'd have to win.
Jokic, another one?
Yeah, I think Tatum would have to, win based on record, I think.
Yeah.
Because Jokic has been really good yet again.
Jokic is good every year. He's a unicorn of a player, for sure.
Yeah, his consistency is incredible.
Yeah.
Every day he just shows up delivers almost a triple-double as a center.
Yeah, he's averaging
And
25, 11, and 9.5 right now.
he's goes in on triple-double average. It's going to be tough for
Yeah.
anyone to beat him in an MVP race. I think
1.5 steals on
voter
top of that.
fatigue would definitely work against them because, championships were being held against Giannis after his first MVP. And, Jokic hasn't won one either. So maybe that gets held against them. We'll see. But, he's been incredible. And then the returns of Murray, Porter, and others have helped them. So it's not only him carrying the team to like a 5 seed as he did last year. It's them being the 1 seed right now. And, they've looked good.
Aaron Gordon's also shown a lot, I think, as a role player for the team.
Yeah, he's definitely fit in. Last season there were a lot of complaints.
Yeah.
A lot of Nuggets fans wanted him gone. They didn't understand the trade. I think this
He's
year,
getting paid a lot
definitely had
for
a better year.
what he's doing, but
Yeah. And then
they're putting it a lot
to go
together
back to
right
the
now.
East, where the Nets have been on fire ever since Steve Nash was fired and interim coach.
Amazing what a new coach can do.
Yeah.
For a team that actually
76ers
has
have
coaching
been
experience.
A little bit of a role as well.
Yeah. They won 8 straight. But Vaughn has done a really good job with the Nets.
I'm surprised the Nets have done so well with all
Yeah.
the dysfunction they had coming into the season.
So maybe a lot of that was on Nash. I don't know. It's a bad look for him right now. But, they've been doing real. KD is having one of his best years ever at 34. It's been really impressive. He's been shooting lights out. He's been working really hard on defense. Obviously moving down. Also, the Cavs have been there. Their defense has been really good.
Cavs have been great. Cavs have a great lineup.
Mobley and Allen have been holding the fort down. So people were concerned.
Yeah.
What Donovan Mitchell would do to the defense. Him and Garland. But no, it's been
good.
It's been good anyways.
Yeah.
Obviously Mitchell gives you a boost on offense. Garland had a big night today. He scored over 40, but they did lose for the Nets. It's a fun team. It's a young team. I like what they're doing too. And
Garland had 46 tonight too.
Yeah.
Crazy.
And then obviously 76ers, they've won 8 straight. Max has been out of the lineup. But that Melton trade was really good for them. He's fitting well. He's strong on defense. He hits threes. Harden, a lot of people talked about his playmaking, and it really has been incredible, his transition.
The Sixers are playing well, but I can just never take them seriously. It's something that...
Yeah.
Any team James Harden's on is just... There's always dysfunction looming, I feel.
Well, I feel like, especially because they're usually relying on him historically.
Yeah.
And obviously that's tough to win when you're that reliant on one guy. Let's be fair to him. He's had some incredible performances. In 2017, they were so close.
Yeah.
Took the Warriors to 7.
The Rockets rumors that came out the past 2 days that Harden was looking at returning to the Rockets. It just feels like he kind of has one foot out the door while trying. He took a team-friendly deal this offseason, kind of.
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah, kind of. He saved maybe
people were kind of
$3 million.
Yeah.
But team-friendly.
Yeah.
I guess as far as you can go for a max extension. But it just seems like he is always looking at the next thing, especially now, when you went from the Rockets to the Nets to the Sixers, he's just all over the place. It seems like he's just bouncing between team. And I feel like that's going to happen, just kind of what Harden's end of his career is going to be like.
Yeah.
He's not the type of player that wins a championship.
Lately, it just hasn't seemed like he's really found a place that he wants to stay at and commit to.
Yeah.
Yeah, in that article, it did mention that he still isn't one eye to eye with Embiid and Daryl Morey.
No.
And that's interesting, but just looking at the on-court for the Sixers, they've been clicking. I think they've looked good, especially with Maxey, who's been one of their better players. But yeah, I don't think they wouldn't be my pick in the postseason. I feel like, I also hold it against them, how they disappoint year after year. And I definitely I don't take any media saying, "Oh, they've won 8 straight. Let's see them in the are you scared of this league?" Because I don't think it's because just the track record isn't.
Yeah.
Year after year, They come up short in the postseason. They get swept here, beaten here by the Hawks, or they always get upset or underwhelmed.
Mm-hmm.
And I definitely wouldn't trust them there, but the eight straight wins, something's clicking. I think that they're going to be again solid in the regular season. But
yeah,
let's see.
They'll be good in the regular season. If it's just all a matter if they can maintain their composure here and maintain the chemistry. Because if they start to, which they will, they'll go on a little bit of a skid at some point during the season. And that's when the team's really going to be tested and when you're going to figure out what the 76ers are. The previous couple of seasons, we've looked at the 76ers. They have had faults in their regular seasons, and we saw them pretty much unravel. And we're just going to have to wait and see here if the Sixers can work through that period and, as all great teams do, go forward with that. And I just don't have confidence that they will be able to do that, especially in an Eastern Conference right now that is stacked pretty much top from to bottom. I can see pretty much the top 11 teams right now doing damage to about anybody in the Western Conference and to each other in the Eastern Conference. I can see any of those teams in contention right now.
Yeah, I mean that's why the NBA is talking expansion. A lot of teams, more teams than ever. Once again, teams are getting really talented. There's a lot of talent. So it feels like every single team already has like a franchise guy, someone they want to build around, and that's good for the league. And that's definitely why they're talking expansion, not just money.
Mm-hmm.
Because it would make sense to spread the talent a little bit more now. But yeah, the Raptors are in 10th, the Bulls are in 11th. These are teams with all stars on their rosters, teams with aspirations who have tried to make,
big
championship moves
yeah.
recently. And
Heat are the 9th seed right now.
Yeah,
they have a great roster.
People thought the Pacers would be tanking, and they've been doing pretty deep.
Halliburton,
Halliburton,
great,
really good.
Hawks are always up there with Trey, and now DeJounte Murray, John Collins.
See, you would think maybe they would want to do better than 17 and 16 after such a big move.
Yeah,
but that's just what it is. It's really competitive. It's good for basketball.
It's really fun. The Knicks are at 6. They're very scrappy right now with Brunson.
Yeah.
And RJ Barrett.
Yeah, I think some of their young pieces are coming along. Mm-hmm. Brunson was a great addition.
Quickly.
Yeah, Quickly's coming along, but Brunson was just such a great add.
Brunson, yeah.
He's been a true point guard for them. Randall's bounced back. Realistically, his talent level was above what last year was.
Yeah.
But, yeah, and then what's really been big for them, too, is the second chance points. Mitchell Robinson has been a monster on the boards, and they've been, working hard, getting points, and finding ways to win.
Randall kind of had that big contract hangover last season. He just wasn't taking that too well. But big bounce back for him this year, which has been good for the Knicks. And they got something cooking here. They're on a little bit of a skid right now with 3 losses in a row. But
they were playing well against the Sixers. First half they were leading, and then they just kind of fell off second half.
Yeah.
But I feel like in the playoffs, obviously if they make it, we're still kind of early in the season. Obviously, I don't think they would be scary, but I think they'd definitely be a tough addition, tough matchup.
Mm-hmm.
Someone that you probably wouldn't want to face because they do work hard. They will punish you on the boards. They will attack your mistakes.
Yeah. Brunson's showing so much right now.
Yeah.
I think he's kind of making the Mavs regret that he didn't
the Mavs didn't even get a chance. It was like the first day he just
bolted for the Knicks.
He has connections with the Knicks. His dad is an assistant coach. And obviously they got caught for tampering.
Yeah.
It was obvious.
A second-round pick.
That's the thing. If anything, it incentivized tampering because they got a great player and they only got slapped with a second-rounder.
Yeah.
So,
the league got to do something.
Yeah, that was pretty bad from my point of view. But for the Knicks, they're smiling because, that's a great player. And then the Mavericks lost. That's the thing. With the cap, with the way the cap works, when you lose someone like that, you can't just add someone else because they're over the cap. They didn't have a chance to sign and trade.
That would be just luxury if you resign.
They just lost talent.
Yeah.
And there's no way to play because they're over the cap. So it's been tough for them. They've obviously had some struggles without Luka. And they had a great win against the Lakers with that huge third quarter.
Yeah.
They can really shoot the 3-ball, but losing the secondary ball handler in Brunson definitely has hurt them because that carried them to that.
Brunson right now got 20 is averaging 20 points a game on 46% shooting, 37% from three. Also going along with 7 assists per game and a steal.
Yeah.
So he's all around has been really, really good for the Knicks. And I think the whole entire thing with Luka and the Mavericks, though, his whole entire career, we've seen that he's just been this insane player, points, everything, just triple doubles all over the place. The whole entire time it's been his supporting cast. And, we've found it with Porzingis initially, and that didn't work. Then we thought we found it with Dinwiddie, and that's been questionable. We'll see. And now we got Christian Wood. So,
yeah, I mean, last year they thought they had a breakthrough with Brunson. They made the conference finals, and he's across the country. He's gone to New York. That was a big blow for them. They still have Luka signed up, but we know in this NBA, the stars dictate the market. They choose where they want to play. We'll see how that goes.
I mean, if the Mavericks can't figure out the supporting cast, you have to think Luka would want out. I mean, it's way too early to say that.
Yeah,
we're looking years and years down the line for that.
Yeah,
but right now they're cap strapped, and they gotta figure out a decent enough supporting cast to get Luka over the hump, and because he has too much talent to be sitting in the second round of the playoffs or just barely make it into the conference finals. He's a player that should be in the NBA finals talk at least year after year.
You definitely want to see the best players in the biggest stage, and Luka's been top 5, top 10, whatever you want to say. He's been an MVP candidate most of his career.
Yeah.
And he's only like 20. He's only like 24. It's really insane how impressive and how consistent he's been.
Mm-hmm.
And we do hope as a neutral if the Mavs figure it out, they get him some help. And then looking down the Western Conference, you'll see the Kings who are in 6th. They're over
Kings
500,
are doing great.
And it's behind an insane offense. They have the second offense in the league behind only the Celtics. And De'Aaron Fox has been doing well. Sabonis has been helping. Herder has been a great addition. Malik Monk has been doing things for him. I think it's just a nice team to watch. They play exciting basketball. They score a lot of points.
Light the beam. And
they have their beam. They have a great social media team. And they're just a fun team.
Yeah. Oh my God, I love the Kings' social media page. Has been glorious for ages. It's finally great that they're getting wins. Finally getting something going in the West, and especially with De'Aaron and Domantas. I mean, I'm sure they wish they had the Haliburton trade back right now, but they were going for a win now type of thing, and here we are with that. So it's working out. Good for them. Getting some wins.
Is definitely a good player, but again, that's kind of reflected in the team's record and statistics. Yeah. They're a really good offense. They're not so good of a defense.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of what Sabonis is. I mean, he's a great offensive player. He's really talented, but
he's going to get 2 points, but
he's just not the greatest, especially because he plays the premium position in center.
Yeah.
They're a fun team. It's good to see them over 500, but
the Jazz are somehow doing well.
Yeah.
Which is just odd. So odd. You have to think they want to tank right now.
Now, that's what everyone thought after the offseason.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of interesting players on there, like Sexton, Markkanen. They just kind of clump them all together. It's just a funny team.
There has to, I have to think with the Jazz, because the Warriors and Timberwolves are going to get into the playoffs. They're going to jump the Jazz at some point. I'd have to think.
Yeah, the NBA looks really funny right now because you have teams that are trying to win, like the Warriors and Timberwolves, 10th and 11th, Lakers 13th. And then you have teams that you thought were trying to tank, like maybe the Kings and definitely the Jazz, and they're just in playoff positions right now. And it's really funny.
Yeah. I mean, I see at the deadline Jazz just unloading completely.
Yeah, because, I mean, from their point of view, it also helps if they're doing well, because either way, that's value being added to the players.
Yeah. Wembanyama doesn't look like they're going to be too close for him right now. I think you're going at the pace they're going.
Yeah, probably going to Texas as of now.
Yeah, maybe Popovich gets a new weapon. Why is he still coaching? Like, way too old at this point. And he's just, I don't know. He's suffering. like with this team.
I mean, they traded away Jonathan. They know what they're doing.
Yeah, I'm just
You get the feeling that maybe
I'm
he
just
does.
wondering how long he's gonna go.
Maybe he does want to coach Wembanyama.
Yeah. I mean, they gave up Lonnie Walker. He's doing a great job in L.A.
Yeah.
For as bad a supporting cast as LeBron has right now. And Lakers just horrible. So bad. But Lonnie's putting up like 15 a game, 46% shooting. He's shooting 40% from three. He's doing all he can to try to get LeBron somewhere. And LeBron's playing all right, but Anthony Davis is out for a month right
now. They were
now.
kind of turning the corner there, but then Davis got injured again.
Yeah.
Because they were what? They were like 7-3 over the last at some point.
Yeah. After a horrible
It
start.
was looking good. Yeah, they were, and then Davis got hurt.
It just frustrates me so much for the, and I think they're starting to go away now. But the fans that wanted the Lakers to like give up all their picks to just go out and buy more players, because I feel like that's the solution that Lakers fans keep pushing, because they think they're the Lakers. They think because they have LeBron and Anthony Davis, they think that they can be a championship team no matter what, which you should. With those two players, you should. But the team's been so mismanaged that you're just not in that position anymore. And you should be looking to keep your draft picks, especially as far in as...
Yeah, I understand. It's like a weird predicament because from the front office standpoint, like, you have LeBron, you have, like, you want to compete.
Yeah.
Part of you want to compete, but then at the same time, like, they have degrees in math and business and everything. They're thinking about, like, the future. And it's just, like, they have one eye on the future, on the clock. Yeah. And then you see LeBron's old. Anthony Davis is injured every year. And then they just can't justify giving away big draft capital.
This is
first rounders, second, just for a team that they feel is just going to come apart in a few years.
This is why I was pushing for Anthony Davis to leave when he was hitting free agency. It's like to go to Chicago, which was one of the other teams that was interested in him and had rumors about all that stuff. We knew he was going to go back to LA. But why I was urging him to leave LA was because I just don't think LA has much of a future, especially because they give up so many picks. Their front office is so erratic with how they manage things. I just think there's no future of championships there with the Lakers if they can't get their crap together.
Yeah.
We're going to take a really quick break, and we'll be back.
And we're returning with some MLB news. And going back to an offseason that has moved really quickly in comparison to others. Usually you have a few big name holdouts going on to January, February, just before spring training sometimes. But this one's been going really quickly. By Christmas time, almost all of the big names had signed.
Which I think is something that MLB really needed to start doing, because the NFL free agency moves so fast. You have it day one. Everybody, pretty much, all the big names at least, first few days, they go. And that's what makes that free agency so intriguing.
Yeah, and then for the NBA,
same with the NBA.
Before, like the first day, it feels like everything's done.
Legal tampering period.
Yeah, especially those, what's it called? Like, we heard about, like, Lonzo Ball signing trade to, like, Kyle Lowry signing trade. The rumors were there for, like, a while. But then for the MLB, nothing went down until the winter meetings, and then everything hit like a storm. It was really nice. We're going to start off with the biggest name on the free agency market. That was reigning AL MVP Aaron Judge.
Also known as Arson Judge, if you're John Heyman.
Who ultimately decided to re-sign with the Yankees on a huge 9-year, $360 million contract, which makes him the highest paid position player by annual salary.
Also a San Francisco native, if you are John Heyman.
Yeah, he's from around that area. It seemed like he was pretty close to signing with the Giants.
Very close.
Which is surprising because I thought, just the way that the Yankees and Giants are built, obviously the Giants are coming off almost a 500 season, and their ace, Rowan, was on the market. So I was kind of confused on why they were going so hard in on Judge, but it seemed like they had a lot of money to spend, and they did. And they made the offer for $360 million, the Yankees were apparently at $320 million for the year less, so the same salary, but 1 year less. And on the day that he signed, the Yankees bumped it up to the same offer, and he re-signed there.
I mean, I understand why Judge, with the inconsistencies that he's had with the Yankees throughout his career, I understand why he would entertain other offers. But for having the Giants as the second option to the Yankees, there was the hometown appeal, but the winning isn't there.
Yeah.
These aren't the...
Obviously, they had a dynasty in 2010s.
Yeah, this is the early 2010s Giants, not them. They're a scrappy team, yeah. They got Crawford, and they got some younger guys, Yastrzemski. They used to have a decent pitching staff with Rodon.
I mean, yeah, Logan Webb's really good.
Logan Webb is pretty good.
That's about it.
Yeah, but, I mean, there's just, at least if I'm Judge, there's not enough there for me to want to go there for however long his contract is, 10 years.
The Yankees have a good floor. I mean, they've made the postseason every single year of his career.
Yeah, and they're always going to spend. They always have $1 billion just laying around.
Yeah, and then apparently the Padres were also in the mix, but ultimately he re-signed. That's the biggest name on the market. He went off. He re-signed. Well, the second biggest name was pitcher. It's Jacob DeGrom, who chose to move. He went from New York to Texas on a big 5-year, $185 million contract with a vesting option that would activate 6th year at the same salary.
Mm-hmm. Which I don't think he's going to get to, especially with his age and his injury history. Big move for Texas here. They made the move for Corey Seager last year.
And Simeon.
Yeah,
they were the biggest spenders last year. And once again, they came here with a big statement move. I mean, he's 34, and obviously he has his injury history, and they just came in with 5 years.
Yeah. But still, I mean, I can see why they did it. And if I was Texas and they're willing to just lay out the cash. And if I'm willing to lay out that much cash for certain players, I mean, DeGrom's one of the best players on the market, and they need pitching. Perez coming back for them has been really, really good.
He had a good season.
Yeah.
And then they signed, he was on the Dodgers. It was Heaney.
Mm-hmm.
He has really good stuff. Obviously, he's prone to giving up the long run, the big ball, the home run ball. But he's a good pitcher. And then they also have John Gray.
Yeah.
So now they're building out a rotation after they signed DeGrom. It's expensive, but I mean, I don't know how their team's gonna pan out. They spend a lot of money. It's an aggressive move. It does feel like they have a lot of holes for the payroll that they have. But, I mean, we'll get to see how it ages because, I mean, if you're going to shell out big money, I guess DeGrom is the name that you shell it on because his talent level is incredible. Like, if he's healthy, he's like on his own level, number one starter.
They also got Jack Leiter coming up for them. So, a big prospect pitcher for them coming up. So, I mean, they got a pretty good rotation going here, and they're starting to build that lineup up. So I think the Rangers are looking to contend, not immediately, obviously, but they're going to be a scrappy team next year. And I think in a couple, maybe that third year of that DeGrom contract, if they can keep building and have a nice offseason next season, I think they'll be able to figure out something here that could possibly bring them into World Series contention. Especially if DeGrom can stay healthy and can make sure that, because when he's healthy, I mean, he's arguably the best pitcher in the league.
Because I feel like starting pitchers, you're instead of ranking them one by one, you're usually better off giving them tiers because there's a lot of pitchers like on the same level. Like you're going Cole, Burns, like you feel like they're on the same level, right? But I mean, when healthy, DeGrom is just on his own tier. He's by far the one. He just puts up like mid-2 ERAs, even under that in his sleep. He hits high.
Movement is crazy.
Yeah, he hits, and then he just doesn't walk that many people. He walks like one person per 9.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's really good. We'll see how that ages. It might age really badly, but at the same time, we've seen Verlander, Scherzer kind of changing the game. I mean, they're like in their 30s, in their high 30s, and they're just
the longevity is progressing as the game gets more modernized.
Next player on our list, Trey Turner decided to go to the Phillies, $300 million over 11 years. This was rumored since the World Series ended, and it happened quickly.
Yeah, a great move for the Phillies here. Getting even more stacked up after they had their kind of magical run to the World Series there. Came up short to the Astros because the Astros, have been built great. They're having some GM problems right now, which is a little interesting, kind of why they haven't been too active right now. But Turner, a great signing, played great with the Nationals, had great years here with the Dodgers. Unfortunate that the Dodgers are going to lose him here. But overall, great signing to pair him with Bryce Harper and with that nasty rotation.
Yeah, he's back with Bryce Harper, teammates in Washington, and he's been one of the best shortstops over the last few years. Obviously, this offseason has been one with a lot of big contracts, especially a lot of long contracts. Teams are trying to stretch out the money, trying to get that annual value down and avoid the luxury tax. And yeah, it's this one's no different. It's a big commitment. And with someone so reliant on their speed, like Trey Turner, is probably the fastest, among the fastest base runners. He's just hitting 30.
Lost 2 bases.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's just hitting 30 next spring training. So you're just kind of worried to see how that ages and how his game adapts. Because he does have really good bat to ball skills. But at the same time, he does rely a lot on his speed on the bases, his speed on defense, his speed, just in general in offense.
This lineup for the Phillies now is, just out of this world. I think you got Harper, you got Schwarber, both bat to ball insane. You got Castellanos, he's gonna put it out of the park. Real Muto, who's been a consistent catcher, one of the best in the league the past few years. You're adding Turner in there. You got Bohm at third base, Hoskins at first, and then Brandon Marsh also in the outfield and playing some DH.
Yeah, I feel like it's a solid lineup for sure, but also playing probably, I think, at least the second. It's at worst second best division in the league. I think right now it's probably the first.
Yeah.
Honestly, right now it's definitely the first. I think the AL East would have to dethrone the NL East because
you got the Braves,
you got the Mets and the Braves, now the Phillies. Now, that's 3 teams with World Series aspirations in one division. So that's gonna definitely be interesting to pan out because they do have a good lineup.
And the Marlins are still sneaky with their pitching staff with Alcantara.
Yeah, and then their rotation is solid. Their bullpen definitely came together. It was a concern during the season, but it came together in the postseason, and they've made some signings. But it's funny because they just came off a World Series appearance. They look really good, but they realistically could finish third, and I wouldn't be surprised. We'll see how they play. And going off that, we're going to their NL East rival in the Mets, who have spent over $800 million.
Steve Cohen's really going crazy right now.
Yeah, or at least committed, because we're going to talk about one of the biggest free agents later, is the debacle. Because, he's part of the $800 million, but we're not sure yet. But yeah, their biggest move was first signing the reigning AL Cy Young and Justin Verlander after DeGrom.
When the DeGrom news first came out, I knew that there was a chance Verlander could go over there. I initially thought Verlander was just going to go back to the Astros. I thought they had a pretty good hold on him. Yeah, but the Mets coming back here and kind of, filling that spot immediately with a guy who's just as almost like equally as good, arguably better or worse, depending on where you side.
You could argue he's on the same level because he's been more consistent health-wise. Obviously minus the Tommy John, but obviously last year he came back, he pitched a lot, 200 innings including postseason, so he was dependable for the Astros. So value-wise, you could argue that because he's there.
I just think it's great that Cohen and the Mets front office have been so open with their books.
Yeah,
kind of just because they knew they had a good roster last year. Like, they had a good roster last year.
Yeah, they won 101 games.
Yeah. So, re-signing all the key guys and then bringing in even more talent, just talent on talent on talent for them, that is so important for the Mets. And you can really see that they're really trying to go for it. And, they see their window.
I think it's good for
and they're shooting for it.
I mean, you're seeing a lot of seeing some articles and reports talking about their ticket sales increasing and everything. And I think it's just good because there's fans are interested. Because if you're showing that much money, you're showing that you want to win, that you care, and obviously the fans will respond. And I think that's good in an environment where we've seen teams playing cheap. Because obviously they have every team. I don't think every team could spend like they could. I mean, Cohen has one of the highest net worths in the league.
Yeah.
But I mean, at least like obviously $1 billion, $2 billion. It's still a lot of money. They still could spend a lot more than some teams are playing. Some teams are playing cheap, and I think it's good that he's just gone in there and he's spent. I think that's good for the game. At the same time, I'm thankful that the CBA is still years away. That they just agreed to one.
Yeah.
Because it might not look pretty the way he spent.
I mean, I don't know about everybody, but I like front offices that go into, they go to the luxury tax at least a little bit, because they can afford to spend that. You don't have to cheap out on that, especially if you're a big market team and you can contend because you can sign players. Some teams, like the one in Boston, doesn't like to do that because they like to cheap out on things, and that's not how you get your fans to come back and, be invested in your team.
I mean, yeah, I think
the guys in New York, they understand that.
Being a top 5 value franchise, they could spend more, but I mean, to be fair, they still had a top 10 payroll. I think this is more so about like the Oakland A's, who have just sold all resemblance of major league star talent.
Yeah,
I mean, we've seen them go out the door. We just saw Sean Murphy. We'll talk about that trade later. Frankie Montas. We've seen Manea. Just every single person that had any value. Obviously, Chapman, Olsen. Everyone who has any value, they just shipped them out. And they had a really nice team. Obviously, in 2018, they won 97 games. And now it's just all gone.
They destroy it so fast.
Yeah, their payroll
but they have to.
Is bottom. It's really sad.
Yeah, because it's okay when you have to. When you have to play like that, because you have such a low payroll for the bottom of the league teams, that's fine. But if you have a payroll that is pretty much infinity, if you want it to be, and you're still going to turn a profit, you should open up your books just a little bit. And that's what the Mets are doing and what other big market teams should be aiming to do, especially because this is how the league's going to start going. I mean,
is that like
people are paying and paying.
They could still spend. I mean, that's a big market. They obviously have a billionaire owner. He could spend. He just sold it all. That's just sad how the fans have responded. They're not showing up the games because they shouldn't.
Yeah.
At that point,
especially because the whole entire time the owner's just showing to their face that he wants to move.
Yeah, and I think it's really sad for baseball because they have had a lot of success.
Yeah.
They've had a lot of historic teams. They've had a lot of Hall of Famers, and then it's just
it's just bad for
just spitting in their face.
It's bad for the league and the whole entire city of Oakland. It sucks because they lost the Warriors. They went to San Francisco and they just lost the Raiders. I mean, that whole entire city is just being stripped of everything.
Yeah, pretty sad.
Yeah, and for fan bases for all three of those sports, for the Athletics, the Raiders especially, at least from my perspective, and for the Warriors, having those all stripped from them is just sad because they're such passionate fans.
Yeah, so he's worth $2 billion. He could be spending. He could have kept a lot of that talent, at least like Olsen and Chapman. And Marte, and they just all lost them all.
Yeah.
So I think it's good for the game. They also signed Nimmo on a long contract. I think it was a decent annual value. Then we signed Diaz on the biggest contract ever to a reliever.
Much deserved.
Yeah, he had a historic season, so that's kind of fitting. And then help the rotation, they signed Jose Quintana to a decent contract, and they signed the top Japanese pitcher, Kodai Senga. Unlike most Japanese products, he was not posted by his team. His team didn't want to post him, so there's no posting fee. They just signed him in free agency because he earned that by going extra 2 years. I think it was a pretty reasonable contract. 5 years, $75 million, $15 per year.
Yeah, that's not bad
this
for
market with his upside. I think it's a good contract, and I mean they look decent, especially if the unnamed player is eventually signed. That teammate, he makes them that much better. But as of now, they still look really good. And they actually go on to their cross-city rivals in the Yankees, who have also had spent a lot of money, second biggest spenders. Um, Obviously, their big name move was re-signing Judge, and after that, they actually decided to add on by signing one of the best pitchers in the market, certainly one of the best pitchers um, in baseball. Roland, they signed him to a good contract, 6 years, 152 million. Um, Obviously, he has his injury concerns too, just like Degrom
Mhm.
is obviously not as talented as Degrom, so he doesn't get nearly as much money. But I think it was a reasonable contract in this market,
Yeah.
26 million per.
And for an already talented pitching rotation, anyways.
Yeah, and with that addition, it makes rotation on paper the best in the league.
Yeah.
Um, and then they also signed reliever Tommy Kahnle to a decent contract, 2 years, 6 million per. He was there 2018, 2019. So that's bringing a familiar face back, a veteran. And we'll see how they build from there. They still have signed a left fielder. Benintendi left, and he signed with the White Sox, 75 million, 15 per. I think it was a pretty
decent deal
contract
for the White Sox.
Yeah.
Yeah. Especially because they got the old man gone now.
Yeah.
So maybe they can start to build something finally after having that kind of wasted away for them. So
Yeah, the White Sox, obviously they had an off season last year, which is disappointing given all their talent and their expectations. They wanted to at least win their division, and they didn't even make the playoffs.
Yeah, big disappointment for the White Sox. A lot of that coming from the managerial position, in my mind, because the talent's all there. But
yeah, LaRusso was definitely past that. I don't really know why they hired him, because they had a young team. They just went to a older manager who had been
problems
out of a clubhouse for a long
Anyways.
time. So I don't understand they couldn't afford seeing that he'd be out of touch and everything. But hopefully they rebound. But at the same time, ownership's also made some mistakes. Like again with Rodon, like Alvin mentioned, he was theirs, and they had him, Cease, who had a really good year, Kopech, and they just let him go. They didn't even give him a qualifying offer.
It's clear that the White Sox have had just problems and miscommunication from ownership in the front office and just scouting department.
Yeah.
It's clear they got talent. Whoever's in the scouting department is doing really, really well. But whoever's making managerial decisions and kind of some of the spending stuff, a little bit more to be desired there.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. They'll definitely be looking to capitalize with the Twins losing Correa. And yeah, obviously the Guardians are good, but with the Twins, kind of disappointing. I think it'll be easier for them to find a way to the playoffs.
Yeah.
Next, we'll go to talk about the Astros, who haven't really done that much. They lost Verlander, they're defending World Series champs. Then they signed Jose Abreu from the White Sox to fill the spot. Gurriel's a free agent and might not bring him back. They had the Oakland. They had the Orioles guy at first base.
Yeah,
Mancini. And he left a free agent. He's obviously still a free agent. And they decided to go with Abreu, a proven bat. I think he could help them a lot. Because obviously they already have a really good offense. And he's experienced. He's quality. And he's a good locker room guy. And then in the rotation, they obviously lost Verlander. They'll be looking for top prospect Hunter Brown to fill that in. And given their track record, he'll probably do well.
Yeah.
But
they always seem to have people coming through.
Yeah, their bullpen still looks really good. They re-signed Montero. Seems like an overpay to a lot of people, but he's talented. They want to keep that dominant bullpen together. That's what won them the World Series of pitching staff. So I think they've had a quiet offseason, but a decent one. At least signing front, because obviously in the front office, they've had their general manager issues. There were rumors that Click might leave during the season, and it happened. And they're currently GM-less.
Yeah, so, which is tough to manage. I mean, having that much dysfunction in your front office as a World Series winning team is kind of a little bit unheard of. But but it's happening.
Yeah.
So,
especially because they've been so well run. It's kind of insane to see them do this.
Yeah, such a good scouting department, such good free agency
Player
moves
development
and
is
player.
incredible.
But every good team has its faults. I mean, you'd think that wouldn't happen with with a team that's so well run usually, but here we are looking at the Astros just not having a GM.
Yeah, Jim Crane would look really bad if the next season's disappointing because he's just kind of taking the wheel, and that's a big move. Just going on multiple weeks, general manager list, especially because it was kind of like it was just tension between him and Click, and just kind of unforced. But we'll see how it goes. Talking about the Red Sox, and they lost their star shortstop, Xander Bogaerts, on a huge deal to the Padres.
Yeah.
I can't blame them for not matching this. I feel like a lot of people honestly would have made them fun of them.
That brings Bogaerts into his 40s, to be fair.
Yeah, 41.
Yeah, and
so 11 years, $280 million, $25 million per.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of insane.
It's just too much of a deal. Like I'd take that on maybe like 6 years.
Yeah.
That deal.
That's what they offered. They offered $160 million for 6 years. So more per year, but less commitment.
Yeah.
And then the Padres, who I guess they've been super aggressive all offseason. They went in on Turner. They offered more than the Phillies. Didn't get him. Went in for Judge. Apparently offered more. Didn't get him. And they were just kind of going on a rampage.
They were just,
And the Red Sox were the victims.
Throwing money at everybody.
And that's just an incredible contract.
I feel like Bogaerts was on the way out anyways. Just because, and I mean, I don't blame him.
Reportedly there were other $200 million offers, so yeah, I agree. But yeah, I mean, that's the one he signed, I feel like helps the front office because even the most logical fans, even the most sane fans, wouldn't have wanted them to match.
I mean, I dislike Chaim Bloom, which is a soft way to say it, but I don't like him. I'm like most Boston fans here. I just don't like him. But I understand letting Bogaerts go here because if I was the GM, I was in his position, I wouldn't match that. It's way too much money, way too much commitment. And we're gonna let the Padres deal with that contract down the road. He's a great player. He'll play great for the first few years.
But I can understand the concern too because while he's really consistent, while he shows up every day, while he still found a way to get good stats last year, even while his power was kind of declining. His power was declining. That's concerning for a long year commitment. Term commitment.
You're not gonna have the Padres aren't gonna trot Xander Bogaerts out to shortstop at 40 years old. It's just not gonna happen.
He's not ending that contract.
No. You don't see that mileage on a shortstop. It doesn't happen.
They can move him off of it, but saying that offensively his bat was already declining.
Yeah.
It just kind of.
And defensively, Bogaerts has never been that great. It's been about his bat most of the time. So. Yeah.
But. And then JD Martinez left for the Dodgers on a 1 year, $10 million contract. Yeah. He was one of the. He went as well as any free agent addition can go.
Mm-hmm.
5 years was a reasonable contract, and he delivered a World Series.
Yeah,
I think that was a really good signing for them, and I think it just made sense for both parties to end the relationship. But
Sox have been shipping. They've been trying to trade Martinez at the deadline. It seems for the past 2 years, and especially this year. I wish they traded him out this year just to get some value back because we knew he was going to leave. And same thing with Bogaerts, but. It's unfortunate.
Yeah.
We're just kind of letting go of everybody at once. And, maybe that has to be done.
Yeah. He was on the
decline. To reset, but
33.
Yeah.
I think it was just logical for both sides to end their relationship issue because I think it benefits the Red Sox to have that DH spot more open.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it was kind of sad for them, but it made sense logically. And going on to their additions, they added star Japanese hitter Yoshida on a big contract, 5 years, $90 million.
Happy about that.
Yeah, it's a big deal, and obviously plus the posting fee. I think it was pretty reasonable in this market because of his upside.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't know how his skill set would translate, but at the same time, his bat to ball skills are great.
I mean, the Sox they need another outfielder to go with Verdugo right now. I mean, Franchi Cordero
Hernandez.
sucks. Yeah, I mean Kike. Yeah, got Kike, Yoshida, and Verdugo in the outfield. It's not gonna
Yeah,
be a
Yoshida.
playoff lineup, but it could get us to the next step. I think.
Yoshida could also be occupying that aforementioned DH spot. Often his glove is not very highly rated, but he brings a great bat to the table. I think he should do pretty decently in Boston, especially given their park. And then they also added Justin Turner
Mhm.
on a 2-year contract. And I feel like he's going to do well there. He's a good veteran presence. He still has juice left in his bat, and he's probably going to take most of the time in that DH spot. But he's a good bat, good guy, and I feel like he's going to help them.
Definitely.
And now we're going to talk about that guy, Carlos Correa with the Mets. He had a big contract lined up with the Giants, 13 years, $350 million. It fell apart with medical concerns, and especially their fan base was, especially their fan base were upset.
Yeah.
Especially after the Aaron Judge negotiations didn't come to fruition. But especially after the Mets signed him, the fan base was really angry with the front office and everything, especially because they cited an 8-year injury.
Yeah, 2014 injury, which hasn't slowed him down.
People criticized them, but then after the Mets agreed to a smaller contract, 12 years, $315 million, and they also came up with that same concerns over that injury. Now I guess fans are kind of taking the heat off, but yeah, it's interesting to see what happens with him. Still no word from him or the Mets on whether that contract is going to be fulfilled or not. Or they're going to agree to a smaller deal, but he's probably the biggest name, one of the biggest shortstop name this year. Certainly the most talented one. They want him to play third base. We're going to see if that happens. We're going to have a break. And we're going to go back. And we're here with soccer. The World Cup just ended, the world's biggest tournament, biggest competition. And Argentina came out on top in probably one of the best sporting events I've ever seen.
Yeah, I think that was definitely the best World Cup final ever. And probably up there with one of the greatest games anyone could ever watch for literally any sport. It was incredible.
It was definitely a great show for, FIFA, for the World Cup, for the sport. On the biggest stage, it was a really entertaining game. It was back and forth. There was a lot of goals scored. It unfortunately ended in penalties. I think it really hurts. It would really hurt for France. If I was French to lose on penalties the World Cup. But yeah, it was a really good game. For Argentina went up 2-0. Messi scored on a penalty after Di Maria was fouled, and then it was a beautiful goal, one that ended in Angel Di Maria scoring. But after that, France came to life in the end. Right after the Di Maria goal, until the end of the game, Argentina was looking more likely to score a third than France at first.
Yep, and then got around right towards
like the 80th first.
Yeah, you got to the 80th minute, and France decided that they wanted to actually show up and play.
Yeah,
and Mbappe just took over.
Yeah, first this Mbappe scored a penalty. After he was they were down on a counterattack, and then
that just got momentum on France's side, and you could almost just feel that equalizer was coming from France for those last couple minutes. You just knew.
Mbappe had been quiet, and he just absolutely came to life.
Yeah. An incredible finish from Mbappe on that second goal as well.
Yeah, it was a great volley finish. First time, he just put it right into the corner past Martinez. After that, They had a chance late. France did 120th minute, but
And Emi Martinez made one of the best saves.
of the tournament, yeah, it
Of the
was
tournament.
phenomenal. Um, Also before that, Argentina had also come the other way, and they were because France had actually committed numbers forward after the first half. They were really defensive. Game opened up, but the game ended up going to overtime. No one else was able to score, and then we got more entertaining football. It was end to end. Argentina scored pretty quickly. Um, they tried to clear off the line, but they got it past. They had a few numbers back because France was actually trying to win, and Messi scored, and yeah,
And then
almost thought the
Mbappe
game was
capped off his
over.
hat trick.
But then Mbappe capped off his hat trick. They got a handball in the area. Um, After Mbappe tried shooting it, they just blocked it with their hands, so they got a penalty. He slotted it past Martinez, who's a really good penalty stopper, as we later confirmed.
Yeah.
And the game went eventually with the penalties. Martinez has been really good on penalties. I don't think he's lost one yet. He was great in the Copa America. He was great at this World Cup, and he showed it again.
Yeah. I'm not really sure how you can be good at at penalties as a goalie. It's obviously you do research on the players, but
I mean, he
It's
definitely plays
very
mind
impressive.
games. He's pretty impressive. But
yeah,
he's really good at it. And that capped the exciting game. Messi got his World Cup. Pretty cool moment. And definitely a great final. Definitely a great showing for the sport. It was a fun tournament. Had some upset runs. Morocco became the first African team to ever make a semifinal.
Morocco was a very, very fun team to follow. Just cool to see one of the smaller nations that aren't France, England, Spain, Germany, and
Argentina,
and Brazil, all those make a really good push late into the tournament.
Yeah, they had a really good defense. Bona was really solid. That allowed all their stand-up performers, especially at the back. And then offensively, they were just clinical.
Yeah, Amrabat was just everywhere.
Yeah. And then Hakimi was solid too. And it was a really good semifinal when they just ran the gas. France scored early, and that kind of messed up their
Deflated them a little bit. And then they
defensive
were off
setup.
winning.
They usually like to sit back and then counterattack, but when France scored early, they had to go out and try to win the game. But it was a good run. It was really solid. They had great energy around them. I think it was a really fun tournament overall.
Yeah, a lot of interesting takeaways you can take away for a lot of teams in that tournament. A lot of positives for the U.S.
Yeah.
Especially looking forward to the next World Cup coming back to home soil and 4 years of development for a very, very young team. So there's a lot of potential in there. Tyler Adams was incredible. Yunus Musa showed a lot of really, really promising things in that World Cup, especially playing, I think, full 90s in
multiple games, yeah.
in multiple games.
And he was showing back and forth. He has good carry of the ball. He has great energy. And McKennie was solid too.
Aronson, when he came in, was also very, very smooth with the ball. Created a few chances. The one thing that the U.S. team needs to kind of address and improve on is just their offense and their final third being a little more clinical. Other than that, extremely solid team. Pretty solid in the back. A little shaky in the final moments, especially in that Wales game, but that was, things happen.
Yeah.
But from such a young and inexperienced midfield, the way they would dominate some of those games was extremely impressive and very, very positive thing to see.
Yeah, it's definitely got um, Americans just excited for the next World Cup. Definitely a good team, I think, to show off because it had players, had young talent, and it promises for the next World Cup that'll be on home soil. And yeah, I mean, they have to figure out a striker, but a lot of other areas are figured out. Pepe was a big name excluded from the list, and then it was really disappointing to see that
The other
all their strikers called up. Massively disappointing.
the other very large, I think the biggest problem that the U.S. men's national team needs to address is Greg Berhalter. He is not good.
Yeah, he's definitely not good enough.
He has extreme bias towards the MLS, which is fine. I mean, you want to make a name for your nation's league, but you shouldn't let that get in between the actual quality in your team and who comes onto the pitch. So,
Yeah,
I
exactly.
mean,
I
yeah.
don't know if it's just him or just like a U.S. soccer problem, but it was really disappointing to see their decision making before the World Cup because that affected their run because the roster was just kind of
It
it was
was
definitely disappointing. They left out a lot of big names. They called up way too many MLS players, and that affected obviously the games because then on the bench the subs were disappointing because they were MLS players. They brought in people like Shaq Moore and Jesus Ferreira, and that's just not World Cup quality talent.
you know,
The U.S. definitely,
especially in the Wales game when he
yeah,
brought in who was it? He was an attacker. He was a winger. He got brought in over Reina at the very end after Wales had equalized,
yeah,
and he did absolutely nothing.
that's right.
No,
Yeah, Wright wasn't that good either. Yeah, Coast wasn't that good.
it was Jordan Morris.
I had
He
Jordan Moore.
brought in Jordan Morris because he said he liked the physical attributes that Morris would have provided at that stage in the game,
Yeah,
and he did absolutely nothing. And I think he had a few touches on the ball, and they were awful.
yeah,
And he
Berhalter.
just didn't look like he was up to the level
Yeah,
or even close to it, which was frustrating. But I mean,
yeah.
not
I
much
mean,
you can do.
that's another problem that he had tactically. He's kind of limited. He didn't really seem to guide the team. He just kind of had them walk out there and run. And then he just was way too defensive after they scored a goal. He just sat back on any lead. And it was just kind of disappointing because obviously the team has better talent than that. That cost them points against Wales. Just sitting back and allowing them to get back in the game.
He left the door open for teams to get back in the game.
Yeah, and then again back to the decision making. He brought in, as I said, Shaq Moore and stuff. When Joe Scally is a young, promising player already in Europe, already in Mönchengladbach, and he deserved minutes. I think he would have benefited a lot from the experience at a World Cup, and he just sat there on the bench. So yeah, I don't know if that's just a U.S. problem or him problem, but they need to address that before the next World Cup because they need to just accept the fact that the talent is going to Europe, the team is beyond MLS, and that they just need to move on, drop the agenda, drop the quota, and just call up the best players.
Yep. As a nation, our standard is
Improving.
rapidly into um, into European soccer and leagues, and it's just there's so much talent out there that we are failing to take advantage of.
Yeah. So hopefully they find a new head coach. Hopefully he's not from the MLS, and that would definitely help them a lot, both decision making wise and then on the field, helping the product look better because they definitely could have played a way more refined brand of football. But going back to the World Cup, come back from the World Cup, domestic football is starting back up. And today we had Boxing Day fixtures for the Premier League. That league is back now.
Yeah, it was a bunch of good games. Brentford versus Tottenham to start the day. Um, Brentford went up 2-0. Tottenham scraped it back at the very end. Um, Definitely a disappointing performance from Tottenham, as they were third in the Premier League at the time. But yeah, they have been a little inconsistent before the break, and um, a team led by Conte, you would expect to uh, come out of such a long break like that and be well prepared and dominant
Yeah,
in the
they
game
were
against a
outplayed.
club like Brentford, and they were just not up to it. Um, Brighton have been incredible this season, um, especially after losing their manager and
Yeah.
selling a few players.
Potter left, but Serbi's done a great job coming in. He had great tactics. A lot of people had already loved him when he was at Sassuolo. He's he had a slow start, but he's starting to get results now.
Yep, very comfortable win against Southampton 3-1. Newcastle are incredible this season. Miguel Almiron is just a machine under Eddie Howe. Um, they're up to second place in the Premier League, but that is with
2 games
Manchester
on hand.
playing 2 games more than Manchester City so far, and only 1 point ahead of them. So
Yeah, still they've won their last 5 now, and they're definitely ahead of schedule. You'd think because although they do have a new buyer, new owner, and obviously they're worth a lot more, but they haven't even spent that much to be performing their way out of.
it's been very impressive the way they have gone about um, building this team into what they want it to be with these new owners. Um,
Yeah,
when
Eddie
they
Howe's definitely helped
right
a
after
lot.
the takeover, when they got Eddie Howe, he came in. They made a good amount of signings, but they were all like 10, $15 million
Yeah,
signings for just established, experienced players that had been in the Premier League, like Chris Wood,
yeah.
um,
They started Target to be a left back.
Dan Burn.
Yeah, they signed Dan Burn. Center back has been really solid for them.
Yeah,
It's just been a good squad construction. That yeah, Eddie Howe's really helped them. And then their big signing Isak hasn't even played that much, but
yeah.
Wood, as aforementioned, Wilson have been doing the job up there.
Came in, scored a goal, and then unfortunately suffered um, an injury that will keep him out for a pretty extended period of time. But interested to see how they do when he comes back. But Callum Wilson is definitely
Solid player.
going to be able to do the job, fill in. Um, and Leicester City are really, really bad. I don't really know what happened to them, but
I mean, they were doing worse. They're back up to 13th, so at
yeah,
least
they're
relegation's on their mind.
out of the bottom, but still a very disappointing season based on the standards that they set for their club. Wolves beat Everton, which is pretty much to be expected. I mean, two clubs that are not very good, but Everton just don't play winning football.
Yeah.
Um, Liverpool had a pretty comfortable win against Aston Villa. Um, just a pretty complete all-around game from them there. Darwin Nunez had a good game. Um, Definitely was very involved, made the right runs, got himself in the right positions. Just still unable to get into that
Yeah, to
goal
convert.
scoring form for them. And then final game of Boxing Day, Arsenal versus West Ham. Um, Gave a penalty early to West Ham when Arsenal went down 1-0, and then they slowly built back towards the end of the first half, and then they came out of the break firing on all cylinders, scoring 2 goals in 5 minutes in the 53rd and 58th minute to equalize and then take the lead. And then just over 10 minutes later, Eddie Nketiah puts the game to bed with a very, very cool and composed finish, um, which was definitely good to see for a lot of Arsenal fans after losing Gabriel Jesus for
3 months.
for a few months, and there were definitely worries about how he would fill that role because Gabriel Jesus has been such a crucial and important player for them all season, just in the way he plays and the way he leads on and off the ball. But Nketiah had a very good game. He dropped in between the lines when needed, made a few good runs, got in a few good places. Almost had a very, very nice assist in the 5th minute to Saka, but it was ruled off for offside, just for a very, very close call, but the right call.
Yeah, and then in transfer news, window hasn't opened yet. Opened in January, but we already have confirmation that Gakpo is going to Liverpool. He was a World Cup star. It was really good for PSV before that, but World Cup solidified. Yeah, I thought it would jack up his price, but they signed him for a
Wow.
pretty reasonable
Lots
37
of
million.
lots of rumors throughout the World Cup of lots of Premier League clubs having interest. You heard
Especially United.
Manchester United, Arsenal, Liverpool, and a few other clubs um, looking into signing him. And during the World Cup, you were hearing some pretty hefty fees, up near around 70 million.
Yeah, like 70 million.
And then Liverpool got him for 37, and then add-ons bringing it up to 50. So I would say probably a very good deal. Pretty
Pretty
good
decent,
business from them.
Just because it came out of nowhere. I mean, people were talking mainly about United stuff, and then all of a sudden,
Yeah, there was no
it just hit you.
news of
Liverpool.
like they've made a proposal. PSV are waiting to hear from other clubs. It was just Gakpo deal already agreed between the two clubs. Just got to finish everything else, sign on the dotted line.
Yeah, it was a pretty good deal. I think probably will probably convince them to make the pull the trigger to get the deal done. Was the setback in Diaz's comeback because obviously they had to start Oxlade-Chamberlain left from today because him and Jota are out, and those are their two options there. Um, so I don't know how he fits in probably long term because long term he's on the bench, but we'll see how he fills in. Maybe he wins a starting place. Anyways, he's a talented player. He should do pretty well.
Yeah, and Arsenal submitted a bid today to Shakhtar
Donetsk,
Donetsk for Mudryk of 40 million with another 20 or so million in add-ons. Well short of what they're asking for. In terms of price, they were talking about getting a absolutely outrageous fee of around 100 million euros, which is simply outrageous for someone who plays in a league that has very, very little competition. But obviously, an extremely talented player. Has a lot of positive signs and will definitely be a very, very good player no matter where he ends up.
Yeah, I thought it was a pretty fair offer. Probably just testing the water. He's a really talented player. I guess it just shows you how highly they rate him because, yeah, I think it's a pretty decent offer and they just rejected it. Maybe they want, I don't know if it gets 100 million, but it could probably look pretty hefty.
Yeah, from what I had seen on social media from the manager, they're going to be pretty feisty in their negotiations for him because they value him extremely highly. As they showed, he's an incredible player with a lot of potential, still very young, and a lot of clubs very interested. So they know that someone will come in and pay what they want.
Yeah, I know Bayern tried to sign him last summer. And they kind of got somewhere close to the deal, but they just pulled out. They just valued him too highly, and then over all Chelsea, Arsenal. We'll see where he goes now.
Mm-hmm. And Ronaldo terminated his contract with Manchester United.
Biggest rumor has been linking
Biggest
him with
rumor has been
Saudi Arabian club.
linking him with a huge financial deal to go to Saudi Arabia. With 2.5 years of playing, and then another 5 years of being an ambassador for their 2030 World Cup bid. So, would be interesting. I don't know. I just hope to see Ronaldo sign for some club before we get too late in the January window, so that he can get playing and we can see him hopefully get back in his usual stride. Because I think he definitely needs that. He's had a very, very difficult year on and off the pitch. So,
Yeah, and we're talking a little bit about 2030, 2026, and then also wanted to explore a little bit 2030, some of the biggest bids. I think my favorite would probably be the South American one. I think I want to see the World Cup go back there. The current bid is Uruguay and Argentina. That was the original two nations, and then they added Paraguay and Chile. I think that would be a fun bid. It's a continent that's, I probably think, in my opinion, but you could see from the World Cup final, the turnout, the insane amount of Argentines. They outnumbered the French by a lot. And it's just a kind of content that's really obsessed about the sport. I think that'd be really fun. And then the European bid is Spain and Portugal, who added Ukraine to their bid. That could be an interesting one. And then, there's also a Morocco bid. They're hosting the Club World Cup this year, so that they're also interested in hosting the big thing too. Also see how the Club World Cup goes because it's expanded this year, and we're going to see a lot more competition, a lot more clubs involved instead of the usual 4.
yeah, a lot of good potential bids.
Yeah, and then the last big bid is the Saudi Arabian one we were just talking about, but also with Greece and Egypt. That could be pretty fun, pretty interesting. I think there's a lot of good amount of variance between the 3 countries.
Yeah, I feel there would definitely be a need to build a couple of stadiums there, but they definitely have what it takes to make that happen. So,
so it's been a pretty good episode. Just want to thank you for listening, holding us, listening to us all the entire time, talking a lot about sports, a lot of content, a lot of news, and that's going to be it.
See ya. Peace.